As part of a brand campaign for an exhibition event, a poster is crucial. Strategically placed in locations of high footfall, a poster can capture attention and communicate key details about an event at a glance. A poster can help build excitement, reach a wider audience, and reinforce a brand's identity through consistent use of visuals, colours, and messaging. A well-designed poster can not only promote an event, but also set the tone, creating anticipation and build hype. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to create a dynamic poster from scratch using some simple yet powerful tools in InDesign. We'll cover setting up a document, adding text, logos, and even add some design flair. So here I am in InDesign, and here is a poster document open that we are going to develop in this video. Now this design is part of a series of branded marketing material we will be creating on this course for a fictional design exhibition event. To create this poster in InDesign, we're going to cover the following key steps. This is a methodical process that will ensure we create quality design in InDesign and not leave anything unchecked. So be sure to check the bookmarks in this video so you can jump back or ahead at any time. After this video, you'll be able to create a poster really easy in Adobe InDesign. So let's get into it. Now, the poster is one of the simplest document types you might create in InDesign. However, it can still include some of the key formatting features to set up. As I scroll down, you can see in this document I have multiple poster designs. Currently, these are stacked on top of each other as individual pages. If we look in the Pages panel, we can see the contents of this document and how many pages are contained. When creating a poster, it's common to work like this, where you may focus on a few poster designs in one document. For this project, we're creating a poster for a fictional design expo. When designing for an exhibition event, it's likely that there will be lots of messaging and highlights to promote. So an event such as this would develop multiple different posters with different messages. For the look and feel, we're going to take reference from the brand media kit that is included as part of this course, where we will be including some of the brand motif and color elements as part of the design. We'll also be using some of the design elements we have already developed previously on the course. If you want to take a look at this document and get all the assets and follow along, you can get access to this document from the course download folder. This download folder comes with multiple projects and a ton of assets and resources we will be using in this course. You can find the link to acquire the folder from the description. With the download folder open, click into folder 4 project, into the Design Expo folder, click into folder 2 Event Publication Design, and open the Event Design InDesign file. This is a document that contains all the publication designs we will be creating for this course. If we scroll down to the marketing collateral page, we can see a variety of documents. For this video, we're going to look at the poster document. So with the selection tool, I'll click the poster thumbnail. Now I'll either come to the links panel and click Edit Original, or I'll hold Alt on the keyboard and double click on the worksheet thumbnail, and the document will open in its own tab. Now for this document, I'm using the font Base New. If you have not already downloaded all the fonts for this course, this is a free font that you can acquire online. To get this font, I would recommend you check out the course fonts page on the course PDF document. This is a list of all the fonts that I used in this class and where to get them. Simply click on the Base New link and this will take you straight to where you can download it. Simply close this document, install the fonts, open it back up again, and you should be able to follow along just fine. So on the first page, we have a standard layout. We have a highly visual element in the middle of the poster with some text placed below. If we press W to toggle between preview and normal mode, in normal mode, we can see that there's quite a few things going on here behind the scenes. To help structure and align my elements, I have used a baseline grid and a 4-column grid which fits inside the margin grid around the inside. If we look over in the layers panel, we can see 3 layers, one for type, one for images, and one for base. Now, these are quite busy poster compositions with lots of visual elements, so the layers have been set up in this way to make it easy to organize and manage all the visual elements. And if we look in the character and paragraph styles panel, we have some styles here. On the second page, we have another poster design, but with a slightly different layout. The first poster promotes the event itself with visual themes of design and architecture, whereas the second page includes the same visual theme, but this time promoting a speaker and the subjects that may be on offer at the event. As we scroll down, we can see that there are some other posters with some alternative layouts featuring additional messaging. For this video, we're going to focus on poster 1 and 2. So let's see how we can create a document like this. To begin, I'm going to come up to File, New, and create a new document. When creating a new document in InDesign, you can choose from a range of presets, but for this poster, I'm going to go with an A1 sheet. Right now, there is no template for this particular size, so instead of selecting any preset, I'm going to come straight over and type in my own properties. I'll set the units to millimeters, set the width to 594 mils, set the height to 841 millimeters. I'll make sure the orientation is set to portrait. Now I don't want facing pages, so I'll make sure this is unchecked. I'm going to set the pages to 1. I'll click down on my bleed and slug and type in 3 mils, click create, and my new document will open. So now if I press W on the keyboard to toggle between preview and normal mode, we can currently see our bleed around the outside of the canvas and our margin space around the inside. Looking back at my final poster design, if we press W, I can toggle between normal and preview mode. In normal mode, we can see the grid that I have used to structure the poster content. For this approach, I have gone for a 4-column grid to align things horizontally, and I've also used a baseline grid which will allow me to align things vertically. So now I'm going to come into my InDesign preferences, click on units and increments, and I'll set this to millimeters for horizontal and vertical. If you're following along, I suggest you do the same so you can match what I'll be doing next. So back into my new document, I'm going to come over to the Pages panel and double click on the parent page. In here, I'll come up to Layout, down to Margins and Columns. Up will pop a menu. In here, I'm going to click on the preview box. For margins, I'm going to click on the lock icon to unlock. For the top and bottom, I'll set this to 25. And for left and right, I'll set this to 40. On this occasion, I want a little bit more margin on the left and right, as opposed to the top and bottom. In columns, I'm going to set this to 4, and for the gutter space, I'm going to set this to 20, and click OK. Now, as well as managing my content horizontally, I also want to manage it vertically. I'm now going to introduce a baseline grid to give me some structure to align my elements. To do this, I'll come up to Layout, scroll down and click Create Guides. In the menu, I'll make sure to click to turn on preview. For rows, I'll type in 40. For the gutter, I'll set this to 0. Now I've already got my columns set, so I don't need to include anything here, so I'll set these both to 0. I'll make sure to hit the check mark for fit gutters to margins. I'll click OK, and if I double click on a page in the Pages panel, the grid will be applied to my page. Perfect. So once I have my document set up, I can now start thinking about working with visual elements. Now depending on the nature of a design, this can influence whether you start working with type or image. For this design, the main visual hook is going to be the image element in the center of the design. So for this approach, I'm going to start with the large background element in the middle of the poster design, and then work my way outwards. So looking back at the final design, we can see that for the first poster, the main visual element will include this collage composition. The visual brand motif for this fictional design exhibition uses a combination of circle and square shape elements, blended with cutout imagery and bold typography. In the previous episode, we looked at how to create a range of digital collages in InDesign. For this poster, we're going to refer back to that document and use one of these textures as part of the poster design. So for this poster design, we are going to use a solid square background shape, which has a vibrant gradient texture inside. Before I start bringing in my visual elements, I'm going to do some housekeeping. Over in the Layers panel, I'm going to double click on my default layer 1, and I'll name this to Base. I'll come to the Tools menu and grab the Rectangle Frame tool. And the first thing I'm going to do is click on my left margin and drag down right while holding Shift. I'll drag this over to touch the right margin, and that will form the basis of my square background. Next, I'll come into the Design Expo Brand Toolkit. With the download folder open, click into folder 4 Project, into the Design Expo folder, click into folder 1 Media Kit and open the Design Expo Brand Kit InDesign file. This is a brand kit document that includes all the style references we are going to include in our publication design. On the Brand Toolkit at a glance page, we can see a gradient sample that we can use. And if we scroll down the document, we can find the page which contains all the gradients that we can sample. Now to get this gradient into our poster, we can do one of two things. I can either copy my sample from this brand toolkit and paste it into my poster design, or I can add the texture manually. With the square frame selected, I'll press Command+D on Mac or Control+D on PC to place an image. I'll navigate to the download folder, into folder 4 Project, into the Design Expo folder, click into folder 1 Media Kit, click into the Assets folder, into folder 3 Graphic Textures, into the Gradient folder and click to open the green PSD. Upon placing, the image may appear larger in the frame. Here I can press Escape to deselect the image inside the frame, click to select the frame, right click, down to fitting and select Fill Frame Proportionally. and that will reduce the image size inside the frame to fit the image to the width of the frame. Now this is quite a luminous image. If it's looking pretty dull on your end, come up to Edit, down to Transparency Blend Space and click on RGB. And if it's looking a bit pixelated, come up to View, down to Display Performance and click on High Quality. With the selection tool, I'll click on the square and just drag it down to position in the center of the page. Easy. So before I bring in the main image elements, I'll just quickly get the logo in here. To make this easy, I'll jump into the Brand Toolkit, copy the logo, back into the document, into the Layers panel, I'll create a new layer, I'll call this Images and make sure it's above the base layer. For now, I can hit the lock icon on the base layer. With the Images layer selected, I'll paste the logo into my poster design, place it in the top left, and scale down to fit the height of 2 rows on the baseline grid. So next, I'll bring in the collage artwork. Back into the Brand Toolkit, if we scroll down to the Brand Artwork Style page, we can see we have links to collage samples. With the selection tool, I'll click the collage thumbnail. Now I'll either come to the links panel and click Edit Original, or I'll hold Alt on the keyboard and double click on the worksheet thumbnail and the document will open in its own tab. So here we have a series of collage samples we worked on in a previous episode. If you have not watched that episode and you're curious to learn how to create digital collages like these, you can jump back to the previous video. Or if not, you can just open this document from the download folder where you can continue to follow along. So for this poster design, I'm going to use the collage composition over on the far right. Now over in the layers panel, I've organized this document into separate layers to make it easy to work with. In this instance, I'm not taking the type or the image in the background, but just the elements. So in the layers panel, I'll toggle the visibility of the type and base layer off, and now I can just see the visual elements. With the selection tool, I'll click and drag over the elements, copy these, come into my poster design, make sure I'm on the images layer and paste. So right now these images are all separate, so I'll be sure to press Command+G on Mac or Control+G on PC to group the objects together. I'll come up to the control panel, I'll make sure the reference point is set to the top left, I'll move the group over towards the top left, I'll press S to activate scale, move my mouse cursor down to the bottom right, click and drag while holding Shift and scale up like so. For now, I'll just leave it like this. I'm not going to worry too much right now about specifics, I'll finesse this later. Now looking back at my final poster design, as part of the center visual composition, we have some words. As part of the visual brand, there is a tagline, Future Design. Back in the toolkit, if we scroll to the logo and lockups page, we can see there is a variety of ways the tagline is featured. For this poster design, I'm going to select the sample where Future Design is stacked on top of each other. So I'll copy this and paste it into my poster design on the images layer. I'll place my cursor in the bottom right and click to rotate vertically while holding Shift to snap. I'll place it on the right side of the square, place my mouse cursor over the bottom left point, and click and drag down while holding Shift to scale up perfectly. And I'll place this nice and snug in the square. Next, I'll double click to select the word design, and over in the stroke panel, I'll change this to 1.5. So with the element placed on the right, I can now see the space in which I need to work with on the left. So what I'll do here is just scale up the gray element in the middle and recompose the texture elements in the collage to fit nicely in the square space. Nice. Now looking back at my final poster design, there are also these stroke lines that appear in the footer. These are here to add some structure to the composition of the bottom. If I toggle on normal mode, you can see that these are positioned nicely within the columns. Now these are styled elements, so to make this easy, I'll jump back into the brand kit. I'll select one of the stroke samples, copy and paste it into my poster, scale up to fit across one column, and position on the top of the second from the bottom row. Once I'm happy with this position, with the selection tool, I'll click and drag it right while holding Shift and Alt. This will make a duplicate across in a straight line. I'll place this in the second column and release. I'll do this again, click on the second stroke, drag it while holding Alt and Shift, release this one in the third column, and one last time for the fourth column. With all the visual elements now in the poster, we can now move on to working with type. So to make it simple and straightforward, we'll start with the largest piece of text to the left under the visual above. Back in the final design, if we press W to toggle on normal mode, we can see that the header of the poster spans across 2 columns, fitting nicely under the main visual collage above. So I'll come into the Design Expo Brand Kit content doc. This is a content doc that has been created to help you follow along with all the tutorials in this course to get hold of all the text. If you want to get hold of this content deck, click the links in the description or click the link in the course PDF. So I'll come to the poster copy first page and I'll select the header copy for poster 1, into the poster design, First, I'll come over to the Layers panel, click to add a new layer. I'll name this layer Type. I'll make sure that this layer is set to the top above the Images layer. Before I bring in my text, I'm going to need to create some space in order to place it. So I'll unlock the base layer, and with the selection tool, I'll click over all the elements in the middle layer and my square on the base layer. In this instance, I'll drag it up so the top of the large square sits just below the 4th row in the baseline grid. And now I have enough space to work with below. For now, I'll lock the Images layer and the base layer as to not accidentally select anything on this layer. So I'll come to the Tools menu and click on the Type tool. And down at the bottom of the poster, I'll click and drag a type frame across 2 columns. And down to give myself some space to work with, and I'll paste in my header text. So back into the Brand toolkit, on the Font Format guide page, we can see that for display headers, we want to use Base New Expanded Medium. So I'll select all my text. Up in the Control panel, I'll change the font to Base New. Click the drop down on Family and select Expanded Medium. I'll set the size to 84 and the leading to 105. Now when working with type in InDesign, you want to be careful. So I'll come up to Type, scroll down and click on Show Hidden Characters. Hidden characters in Adobe InDesign are non-printable symbols that represent formatting elements in your text, such as spaces, paragraph breaks, tabs, and line breaks. These characters are essential for understanding the structure and flow of your text, but are invisible by default when working in a document. Right now, I can see there is a paragraph break at the end of my text. I don't want this, so I'll place my mouse cursor at the end and press Delete to get rid of that. This is just going to clean up my texture. So now we've defined some text properties, I'm going to make a quick style. So with the type selected, I'll jump into my Paragraph Style panel, click on the top right menu, click New Style, and I'll name this Paragraph Header. Click to apply style to selection, click OK, and press Escape to deselect the text, and I'll drag the text frame down, allowing for 2 rows below the square box above. I'll come and double click on the bottom middle anchor point of my text frame, and that should snap the frame up to fit the text nicely. Okay, so next onto the paragraph of text. So with the selection tool, I'll click and drag the new text frame right while holding Alt plus Shift to duplicate this text frame across. I'll come into the Design Expo Brand Kit content doc. I'll select the paragraph copy for poster 1. Back into my poster design, I'll come into my second type frame, which currently has a copy of the header text. With it all selected, over in the paragraph style panel, I'll just click on Basic. This will then take away the formatting and put it back to the default, and I'll paste in my text. Easy. Looking back at the Brand toolkit, looking at the paragraph formatting for large formats, we can see that for the paragraph titles, we will need to use Base New Bold. And for the text, we should use Base New Expanded Medium. Back in the poster design, I'll click the paragraph title. Up in the control panel, I'll change the font to Base New, click the drop down on the font family and select Bold. So this font is part of a big family, so it can be quite fiddly to find the right font. I'll select the copy for the paragraph text below. With it selected, I'll come over to the Tools panel and just click on the eyedropper tool. I'll select the text above and this will copy the formatting. This will make it easy for me to come back up to the control panel, click on the drop down for the font family, and now I can just select the right family I want to go with, without having to find the font. And in this instance, I'll choose Expanded Medium. So I'll select all the copy and set the size to 28. Then I'll select the title and change this to 38. I'll press Escape to deselect my text. And with the frame selected, down in the paragraph panel, I'll set the indent for the right side to 30 mils. So structurally, my type frame will fit nicely into 2 columns, but the type inside I feel is too wide. So by applying the indent to this frame, this will reduce the paragraph width, making it more comfortable to read. Now we can also see there is some hyphenation applied to this text. So I'll double click and select all the copy, come to the control panel, click on the paragraph icon on the far left. I'll just come over and deselect hyphenation, or I could do this down in the paragraph panel. Now again, if we zoom into the paragraph text, I can see there is a paragraph break at the end of my text. I don't want this, so I'll place my mouse cursor at the end and press Delete to get rid of that. This will again clean up my texture. Next, I'm going to come in and add some styles. So I'll begin by selecting the title copy above. Now before I apply a style, I just want to create some space below the title. So I'll come into the paragraph panel and add a 10 mil to the space after property. And that's looking nice. I'll jump into my paragraph style panel, click on the top right menu, click New Style, and I'll name this Paragraph Title. Click to apply style to selection and click OK. Now by pushing that text down, the text frame may now be too short to display all the text, and we might have some overset type here. So I'll press Escape to deselect the text frame, and with the selection tool, I'll come and drag the text box down to reveal more of the text inside. Next, I'll select the paragraph copy below, and right now I feel like it's looking a little cramped. So I'll come up to the control panel and set the leading to 36. I'll jump into my paragraph style panel, click on the top right menu, click new style, and I'll name this paragraph. Click to apply style to selection, click OK, and that's the formatting sorted for the poster paragraph. So to add the text for the footers is going to be pretty straightforward now we have set up some formatting above. Looking back at my final design, we can see that for the footer elements we have these titles and subtitles. So with the selection tool, I'll click on my paragraph text frame, and I'll click and drag down while holding Alt to duplicate the text frame, and I'll place it down at the top of the first row from the bottom. I'll click back into my Design Export Toolkit content doc. I'll copy the title for the footer 1 into my document, select the title and paste. Now for some reason you might see that the text will change. If this happens, with it selected, just come back into the paragraph styles and click back on the paragraph title style to apply. Back in the content doc, I'll copy the text below and paste this to replace the paragraph type. So right now that's way too big for my footer element. So what I'm going to do next is just format this text. So for the title, I'll select it, and up in the control panel, I'll set the font size to 22. And with it selected, I'll also click to set it to all caps. I'll select the paragraph text below and set this to size 16. And right now there's quite a large space between the title above and the text below. So I'll come and select the title above, and down in the paragraph panel, I'll change the space below setting from 10 to 2. With the title text selected, if I look at the paragraph styles panel, we can see a plus next to the style. So I'll click on the top right menu for the paragraph style, click new style, and I'll name this footer title. Now it's also important to mention here that if I look on base on below, it may say based on paragraph header. Now I don't want to base this style on anything else. I want a completely fresh style. So I'll make sure to click this and select no paragraph style, click to apply style to selection and click OK. I'll select the type below, click on the top right menu for paragraph style and click new style, and I'll name this footer paragraph. Again, make sure to base this on no paragraph style, then click to apply style to selection and click OK. So I'll press escape to deselect the text. With the selection tool, I'll select the text frame. Now down in the paragraph panel, we will see that we still have that 30mm applied to the right indent. We don't need that anymore. So I'll come and set this to 0. I'll come to the bottom of my text frame, double click the middle bottom anchor point, and that will snap the frame up to meet my text. And I'll click on the right middle anchor point and drag this in. Drag the footer down so the bottom sits on the bottom margin baseline. And now we have one footer element in place. Easy. So with the selection tool, while holding Alt and Shift, I'll click on my first footer and drag right to make a quick duplicate. And I'll do this another 2 times until I get 4 footer elements at the bottom of my poster. Then I'll just jump back into the content doc, choose the footer title for each, jump back into the poster and paste them in, and replace the paragraph text. Easy. Now one last piece of text to include is a label up in the top right which says coming soon. I'll click on my header copy text frame, drag it up while holding Alt to make a copy, and I'll make sure to place the top right corner against the top right margin. Double click into the frame to select all the text. Into the paragraph style panel, I'll click on basic to set the style back to default. Now I can either come into the content deck and copy the label text, or I can just type this in. I'll type in register today. Back into my brand toolkit. For labels, the font is set to expanded medium, and we can also see a highlighted effect applied to the text. Back into the poster, I'll select the type. Up in the control panel, I'll change the font to base new. Click on the drop down on the family and select expanded medium. I'll click the all caps button, change the font size to 35. I'll place my mouse cursor just before the word today, and then press Shift plus return to add a soft return. I'll press escape to deselect the text, double click on the bottom right anchor point to snap the frame to the text, and I'll just position the text over on the right for now. Now if we come back to the brand kit, we can see that for the label type, we have a highlighted color effect. So I'll select the label text. Up in the control panel, I'll click to underline the text. Down in the character panel, I'll click on the top right menu and click on underline options. I'll click the preview button, push the weight up to 65, change the offset setting to -10, change the color to black for now, set the tint to 50%, click OK, and that's an easy way to add some highlighted effects to your text. So with the label text selected, into the paragraph styles panel, click on the top right menu, click new style, and I'll name this label, click to apply style to selection and click OK. And that completes all the type elements for the first poster design. So at this point, when all of the text is in the document, I then like to start thinking about color. Looking back at my final poster designs, you can see the color approach I took. So if we look in the swatches panel, we can see that we have all our brand colors present. When we pasted the collage elements and the stroke element into the poster earlier, it carried across the swatches. In the swatches panel, we can now see all the colors that can be used in the poster, but we will need to be careful. Here we can also see some duplicates, which can happen when you paste in elements with the same color multiple times from different documents. Here I'll come and click on a duplicate, right click, select delete and replace it with an existing color. Once I have my brand colors together, I can click the top one, press and hold shift, select the bottom, click the folder icon to set these into their own folder group and name the folder Design Expo Palette. Nice. Now I can come and select the text elements and change the colors individually. But now I've created some styles, it'll be easier to do it this way. So I'll come into the paragraph styles panel, double click on the paragraph style, come down to character color and change the color to midnight. I'll click on the preview button and we will see the text change in the poster. I'll do the same for all the other paragraph styles, change the color for the type to midnight. Next, I'll click on the label style and down on the underline options, I'll change the color from black to Solaro. Click OK, and just like that, we have applied some color and we now know that everything is neat and tidy with our styles. Great. So there is one last element I want to bring into this poster design, and that is a QR code. And I'm going to place this in the bottom right corner next to the Find Out More footer element. Now in InDesign, we actually have a barcode generator. So I'll come down to the bottom right of my poster design, into the Tools menu, I'll grab the Frame tool and draw a box, up to Object, down to Generate QR Code. Upon click, a box will open where we can type in our address. Into the content deck, I'll choose the web address, copy and paste it into the content area. Up in the color tab, I'll select midnight, click OK, reposition so it's flush with the bottom right margin space, and that completes the layout of our initial poster design. Now the true power of InDesign allows us to create and manage multiple content in one document. We just created one poster design, but looking back at my final designs, we can see that I have some additional layouts with other themes. What I'll do to finish off this tutorial is show you how you can duplicate a layout and make modifications easily. So once you're happy with one layout, it's very easy to duplicate. I'll come into the Pages panel, click the first page, right click and duplicate the spread. Looking back at the final designs, we can see that the second design includes a different theme. This one is promoting a speaker at the event about a specific topic. Once we've established the foundational principles of our poster design, such as character and paragraph styles, making modifications is easy. So in this instance, I'll come and toggle off the visibility of the type and image layer. I'll select the square graphic, come up to Object, down to Convert Shape, and I'll select to change this to an ellipse. Next, I'll toggle on the visibility of the images layer and lock the base layer. With the Selection tool, I'll select over all the visual elements and delete them. Into the Brand toolkit, with the Selection tool, I'll click the collage thumbnail. Now I'll either come to the Links panel and click Edit Original, or I'll hold on the keyboard and double click on the worksheet thumbnail, and the document will open in its own tab. I'll lock the base layer and unlock the elements layer. I'll copy the first composition on the second row. Into my new poster, I'll make sure to have the image layer selected and I'll paste this in. I'll scale them up to fit within my margins. I'll recompose the visual elements so they are more balanced. And on this occasion, I'll click into the word design and change it to fashion, and I'll be sure to adjust the text frame. Now, one further detail I want to add to this one. I'll come over to the layers panel and toggle off the visibility of the type and images layer. I'll unlock the base layer, click the circle, I'll press Command+C on Mac or Control+C on PC to copy. Then I'll press Command+Shift+Alt+V on Mac or Control+Shift+Alt+V on PC to paste in place. With the Direct Selection tool, I'll click into the image and delete, set the fill color to white, then click on the middle right anchor point and drag in while holding Shift+Alt, and that will scale it down from the middle. I'll scale down to mask the circle behind to create what appears to be a thick gradient stroke with the gradient texture, and then lock the base layer and toggle back on the type and images layer. Now for this poster design, I want to make it a little more minimal. So I can come down and delete the first two footer elements. I'll jump into the content deck. For poster 2, I'll select the header, copy and paste this to replace the header. And I'll press Escape to deselect and use the Selection tool to click and drag the frame down to reveal more of the text. So in this instance, we can see that there is some hyphenation occurring in the text. So I'll double click into the frame to select it. This time, down in the paragraph panel, I'll click to turn off hyphenation. And if we look over in the paragraph styles, we can see a plus icon next to the poster header style. In this instance, I'll right click on the style and click Redefine Style, and that will update it. So in this poster layout, the header is larger and occupies its own space there in the bottom left. and we can still keep the 2 footer elements on the right. I'll copy the paragraph title from the content deck and paste, and if for some reason the text changes size, be sure to click back on the paragraph title style to reset. I'll copy the paragraph text from the content deck and paste this in, and just like that, we have a new poster design. Perfect. So before we close off the tutorial, there is one last thing that is quite important to keep in mind, and that is style management. In this video, we have created various styles for various text formatting. If we look in the paragraph styles panel, right now we can see that we have a number of styles building up here. Now we could just leave it as is and move on, but if we want to be really organized, we can manage these styles. Earlier in the course, when we focused on paragraph and character styles, we talked about organizing our styles into folders. This can just make the whole process and workflow of using InDesign and styles easier. Also, when we come to build more documents in future, it'll be good to have our styles organized so we can refer back to them and even use them in other documents. So I'll come to the bottom of the paragraph styles panel, click to add a new folder. I'll call this headers and titles, and I'll move my poster header paragraph title and footer title into it. I'll create another folder, call this paragraph, and I'll move my paragraph and footer paragraph styles into it. I'll create one last folder and call it label. I'll drag in my label style. I'll make sure my header folder is on top, then the paragraph, then the label, and here we are creating a nice hierarchy of our styles. So once you're happy with your design and you want to export ready for print, you can either export the entire document or you can export individual pages. For this example, I just want to export the first poster. So when you're ready to export, simply come up to File and click on Export, or press Command+E on Mac or Control+E on PC. I'll navigate to the project folder I saved previously in the course, click into the Publish folder, select the PDF folder. I'll name the file Design Expo Poster 1, and down in the format, I'll choose Adobe PDF for print. I'll click Save and that will pop another menu. Here I'm going to make sure that for Adobe PDF preset, high quality print is selected. For pages, I'll select range and type 1. I'll make sure pages is selected. I'll make sure that view PDF after saving is checked. I'll come over to the left and click on marks and bleeds and click only on crop marks. For bleed, I'll set this to use document bleed settings and then click export. InDesign will do its thing and that will pop Acrobat Reader. I'll zoom out a little and click on the pages tab, and here we can see we have a PDF document with 1 page. Around the outside we can see the trim marks, and this is where the printer will trim the poster after printing. So this is now good to send off to the printer. Perfect. So that's how you can create a poster design in InDesign and incorporate styles and easily duplicate your artwork. Now another common document used when marketing an event is a flyer. In this video, we looked at how to manage design for a single side document. In the next video, we're going to move on and look at how we can manage design for a double-sided print document. In the next video, we are going to look at how we can create a flyer in InDesign. So see you in the next video.